Radhe Radhe, a spiritual good morning to one and all on Saturday, 26th November 2022. Mummy and I are here to record our recap video for today's Bhagavad Gita Recitation session for our Chapter 2 series.
Radhe Radhe and a warm welcome to our recap video. Let's do the recitation of verses number 21 to 25 of Chapter 2. Verse number 21. Veda avinashinam nityam ya enam ajam avyayam katham sa purushah partha kam ghatayati antikam vasansi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grahanati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani sanyati navani dehi na enam chindanti shastrani na enam dahati pavakaha na cha enam kledayantyapo na shoshayati marutaha अच्छेद्योयम अधायोयम अक्लेद्यो शोषयेव च नित्य सर्वगतस्थाणुर अचलोयम सनातनः अव्यक्तोयम अचिन्त्योयम अविकार्योयम उच्यते तस्माद् एवं विदित्वा एनं नानुशोचित उमर्हसि. So these are the 5 verses, and let me do 5 words also. First word is avinashinam. Avinashinam means imperishable. Something which cannot be, which is not perishable, which cannot be killed or burnt or dried or wetted. It is eternal, avinashinam. Then from verse number 22, I have taken the word jirnani. Jirnani means worn out, old. So the soul sheds the body and moves into new body. Soul is eternal. It takes away the worn out body. Then verse number 23, the word I have chosen is chindanti. Chindanti means nothing can happen to soul. Even weapons cannot shred it. It is eternal. Then verse number 24, I have chosen the word sarvagataha. Sarvagataha means it's all pervading. One, God is all pervading, the Supreme Soul is all pervading, and because of our individual soul, consciousness in the body is all pervading. And the last word from verse number 25 I have taken is achintayaha. Achintayaha means it is inconceivable. Means you cannot even, with this material eyes, you cannot think or see the soul. You cannot even perceive it. So I give it over to Gagan.
Yeah, let's quickly learn the meaning of all of these verses. So chapter 2, verse 21, the catchphrase as a question is, I'm perishable. Really a different way of writing imperishable, but the I here refers to us in our body form, which yes, it is perishable and it has an expiry date. But when I recognize myself as a soul, then I know the answer. I am not perishable. And indeed, we hear from Sri Krishna that the soul is imperishable. In terms of brief commentary here, Swamiji tells us that Arjun here is, of course, confused with recognizing himself at the body level, and he thinks he's the doer. The instructions and guidance really encourage him to rise beyond that, rise above spiritually, and not treat himself as the doer, but to look at himself as the soul. Chapter 2, verse 22. cast of clothes, cast off clothes. So yes, cast off clothes with the double F, that is really just the analogy that just as we change our garments, likewise the soul changes bodies. But in other words, with a single F, cast off clothes, this is just lifetime after lifetime. It is a soul changing body after body. It's changing clothes like we do. And this is again talking about the concept of reincarnation and transmigration. In the commentary by Swamiji, you'll learn about something from the Nyaya Darshan, which describes, for instance, how a baby at times will be crying and then suddenly happy and laughing. It's teaching us from the scriptures that the baby is remembering things from the past life, but soon enough, because death and birth are very painful, those memories get eroded. But because of karmas of previous lifetimes, there are consequences in future lifetimes. There's also learning that continues, such as how a baby knows how to eventually drink milk, walk, and crawl. Chapter 2, verse 23, winds, water, weapons, wind. A lot of W's for alliteration here. We see from Sri Krishna describing more attributes of the soul, that the wind cannot dry it, water cannot wet it, no weapons can shred it, fire cannot burn it, nothing can happen to it. It is eternal and it is unchangeable. So this is really, again, describing that the soul is something we just cannot appreciate based on our material senses only. We need to understand that it is transcendental and divine, and of course, eternal, just like God. Chapter 2, verse 24, primordial presence. Sri Krishna says the soul is, again, he mentions it is immutable and it is primordial. It has always been there from the very, very beginning. So here one might think we've seen or heard the word immutable just a couple of verses before. We've learned other attributes before. But what is happening here is that Sri Krishna is using the concept of punarukti, repetition. As the best and most skillful guru and teacher, he's using terms over and over again so that we can understand the concepts through reinforcement and add to our understanding. So this is one verse of many in the Bhagavad Gita where terms and concepts are repeated skillfully by Sri Krishna as a form of punarukti, repetition, so that it helps in our continued understanding. And finally, chapter 2, verse 25, give up grief. The encouragement and instructions to Arjuna are that he should not grieve for the body. Because again, the soul is eternal. In the commentary, Swamiji describes a science experiment where people thought they would see a person dying in a glass enclosure, and they would perhaps see the soul exiting, or at least maybe the glass cracking or a sound being heard, but nothing happened. Again, the material senses cannot perceive the soul. Consciousness, yes, that's a symptom of the soul. We can perceive it, but not the soul itself. It is divine. It is like God, eternal and full of complete bliss. So we need that divine assistance from God to be able to fully appreciate the soul. That is a quick summary of chapter 2, verses 21 through 25. We'll again have one round of recitation.
Okay, thank you, Gagan. And let's have one more round of recitation. Ved avinashinam nityam ya enam ajam avyayam katham sa purushah partha kam ghatayati hantikam vasansi jirnani yatha vihaya नवानि गृह्णाति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि न एनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि न एनं दहति पावकः न च एनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुतः अच्छेद्योऽयम् अदायोऽयम् अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्यसर्वगतस्थाणुर् Achaloyam sanatanaha. Avyaktoyam achintyoyam. Avikaryoyam uchyate. Tasmad evam viditva einam. Nanushochitum arhasi. So I hope you all noticed that out of these 5 verses, 4 were shloka. They were sung in Anustup meter because they had lesser syllables, and only verse 22 that has been sung in Tristup meter because it has 44 syllables. I hope that helps you all to understand the verses better.
Thank you, Mummy. We look forward to everyone's continued learning along their spiritual journey. So we shall meet next time, Saturday, 3rd December, 2022, a very special day, in fact, Gita Jayanti. Till then, Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
Radhe Radhe.